Right now is a time where it's more important than ever to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Not just physically, but caring for your emotional health too. And the answer might be to just let it go. Author Monica Berg is here to explain how to create a life that not only feels like it's working, but more importantly, a life in which individuals are living and loving as the powerful, fulfilled person they've always wanted to be. Hello, Monica.
Hi, good morning.
Let's talk about this. Why is it hard for us to let things go, whether it has to do with work or personal lives? I know that I suffer from wanting to kind of control things, especially schedules.
Bingo, you hit the nail on the head. We have most difficulty letting go because we have this false sense of an idea that we are in control. And feeling like we're in control makes us feel safe and secure, but it's one of the biggest illusions that we buy into. When we're able to realize that the only thing we can control is our reaction to things, it's easier to kind of walk away from the things that are less important. And when we practice this every day in small ways, then when we have the bigger challenges, it's kind of easier to surrender and lean into them.
Now, when we talk about letting go, why is that an important process, and how does that help with our overall mental health?
Well, people who have a hard time to let go, they usually aim towards perfection, right? I need to look a certain way, I need to be a certain way, act a certain way. It's tremendous internal pressure that we create for ourselves. And it's also an impossibility. So by understanding that perfection is actually something that we shouldn't seek and that we stop focusing on what's unchangeable, we can then put energy on things that we can change, right? Like letting go of other people's opinions of us. Because when we hold on to those kinds of ideas, we walk around with a lot of pain, a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, and then you're in this state where everything kind of feels stressful, feels like you're losing control, and then you try to hold on tighter. And of course, over time, that will affect our mental state and where we find ourselves in our moods and our thoughts, and then ultimately our behaviors.
Well, we know we are creatures of habit, so it sounds nice, but where would we even start to start letting things go?
So when I mention surrender, I think that sounds like a terrifying word for most people. When you mean surrender, surrender to what? But when we understand that surrendering is actually the most freeing thing we can do, because it's not giving up on things or beliefs or desires, it's being able to actually just change that energy and refocus it onto something that's positive and something that we actually want and that we can influence. So it's really just a shift in focusing on the lack and the loss or your perceived desire that's not happening and saying, okay, that thing right now in my life, I can't actually influence, but what can I do? What am I able to focus on? What am I able to redirect? Because at the end of the day, it's just energy, and it's changing something that's negative to something that can be positive.
And you've written a book and you talk about fear and I guess overcoming that and being able to live this life that we've imagined. Tell me a little bit more about the things you talk about in your book.
Yeah, it's a book that's become really popular again during this pandemic. Fear is all around us, especially when we're watching the news. I mean, it seems like there's a real instability to most of our lives. So, when we talked about a tool a minute ago, and that's why I titled the book Fear is Not an Option, because when fear is no longer an option, then your mind now goes to look for other viable options. And that's the same way that we want to approach anything that we're really challenged with in life. So when you look at life that way, because fear is actually the one thing that really stops us from living the life we're meant to live. We let it paralyze us, stop us in our tracks. We stop dreaming. We stop believing for fear of rejection, for fear of failure. There's so much fear all around us. And when you realize that the most powerful thing that you can do is realize truly how powerful you are. We each have the ability to change and change our lives in ways that we don't give ourselves credit. Instead, we give too much power to those negative belief systems, to our fears, to our worries, to our need for control. And instead, we could be actually manifesting what we really desire. And it really is just a flip of a switch. Know that it's possible. And really, in this day, for all of the people joining us this morning, check your thoughts. How many fears prompted and came up for you today? How much energy did you give it? What things that you wanted to do did you not do for fear of loss or some kind of struggle? And when you're aware of your thoughts, then you can transcend them.
And I'm assuming you practice what you preach, but is this a continual process too?
It is, but the good news is it gets easier. So now I don't actually have to walk myself through steps. It's really automatic. And again, I think that when we want to approach change or we recognize something not working in our lives, we think that it has to be this thing that's huge and we have to give it a lot of thought and time and effort. In fact, just one small change after one small change in a direction that you want to go in will lead to great change. So, in one small way, challenge yourself today to say, okay, I'm going to let go of my need for control in this one area and see how it works for you. And then you will see the rewards. You'll feel freer and happier, and you're going to say, okay, I want more of that. And then eventually, it will just be automatic.
And if people aren't able to really let things go, are they going to keep running into the same hurdles?
Yes, great questions. Absolutely. And that's why, often we say, oh, I don't understand why this relationship I had, I'm in the same relationship again, or that struggle I had, it's like this movie keeps following me in life. And in fact, because we are meant to go past things and grow through the challenges that come our way to the other side of it, where we are a more evolved and developed person. So you can't run away from everything. You really just want to go through it, right? I often say that things happen, they can either happen to you or they can happen through you. And when they go through you, you actually realize, wow, it wasn't comfortable. That was a difficult thing, but I'm so happy that it happened because I can actually see my own growth and development and see the world in a different perspective.
Monica Berg, appreciate your insight this morning. Got to change that mindset. Find more on Monica on Instagram at Monica Berg 74.